Healing comes in many forms. We first think of physical healing, that if there's physically something wrong with us, we want that fixed. We go to doctors and nurses with our ailments, and we want them to change it to make it better. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But healing takes on many forms. Not just physical healing, but healing of mind and spirit. We come to the house of the Lord for spiritual healing, for comfort. This morning's gospel, we have several things going on. We've got forgiveness going on. We have teachers of the law angry over who Jesus' authority comes from. We have a healing, a miraculous healing. But I think it's the four that kind of get lost. A number of years ago, quite a number of years ago, I was traveling through Europe, and I was in Bratislava, then Czechoslovakia. Now it's kind of split apart. The maps have all changed. Geography was so much easier in the old days. But I was in Bratislava and went into this old church there that dated back to the 12th century. And as you went in, the walls and the ceiling were covered in all kinds of frescoes depicting various biblical scenes and had been painted over the ages. Some rather humorous, as well, these were often done like kind of political cartoons of its time. Some of the scenes they would paint various political figures in as devils or such. The artists, little fun and frivolity amongst them. But when you got into the chancel area and you got over the altar and this domed ceiling there and all the images on it, and you looked up and there was one in particular that as you stepped in down the center aisle was a hole that had been painted in the ceiling. And you could see ropes coming down to where the altar was, painted on the walls, so it looked almost three-dimensional. And in the hole, this sunlight bursting through, and the image of four heads kind of peering through, lit heavily by the back, so the faces shadowed. And as you stood there and stared up at that, you began to realize the artist wanted you to see yourself as one of those stretcher bearers, one of those people who cared enough to carry this man all that distance. And not just simply to carry him there, but when they get there, discover, well, we tried. The crowd's too big. You can't get to see Jesus. There's a wait. But they weren't going to let that deter them. They found a way because they had faith. Faith in Jesus and faith that their friend needed to come to Jesus. So that's what they did. They carried him to Jesus. This man's not healed because Jesus comes and finds him. This man isn't healed because this man reaches out and grabs his cloak. The healing that occurs is that people care enough to bring him to Jesus. As I stood in that church in Bratislava, staring up and realizing what a beautiful message that artist was painting. 4 blank faces. The faithful to stare up, to look, to see, and realize one of those should be me. To look around at the people around us in our lives, those who need the healing of God's presence for their soul, to be there as stretcher bearers, to carry them, to lead them on. Stretcher bearers are needed. In faith, we have the power to bring people to God's healing. God has touched our lives and calls us to be stretcher bearers for those around us in need. Won't you become a stretcher bearer?